session. My name is Larry Orimoloye. I work for Snowflake as a field CTO based out of London. And together I've got Bruno here. You can say a few words about yourself, if you don't mind.
Yeah, hello everyone. Bruno Gagliardo. I'm the head of data and AI and at the accelerators at Sanofi and also leading generative AI platforms. For those who don't know Sanofi, Sanofi is a leading pharma company. We are 110 billion capital market, present around 170 countries, with 85,000 employees around the world.
Thank you, Bruno. In terms of today's agenda, we're going to start with AI readiness, and then we touch upon AI value and ROI, and then lastly, we will touch upon what we call AI transformation. But just a few words about Snowflake for those that don't know who we are. Snowflake essentially comprises of two elements. We've got the platform, and then we've got the content that runs on the platform. Both are equally very, very valuable. If you look at this through the lens of your iPhone, for example, you've got the hardware, for example, and the sensors that run on those hardwares, and then you've got the apps, which means both are equally of great importance. What sets Snowflake apart is the fact that it's very easy, it's connected, and it's trusted. We've been leveraging the art of the impossible, using the platform to solve diverse use cases for Sanofi and folks in Bruno's team. One of these use cases is actually leveraging multi-agent capability to sift through millions of data sets to generate insight, thereby saving cost, time, and generating tangible insight for Sanofi. In terms of AI readiness, there are 3 rules of thumbs for reaching AI potential. The first one is context, which is very, very paramount. If we take a step back and we look at how the foundation model are being trained today, this is trained on trillions of tokens, for example. And if you put that into perspective, that's equivalent to having 12 million novels, right? And when you apply this foundation model to certain domain area, it requires context to be able to leverage and generate any tangible insight from that. Secondly, we have what we call interoperability, which enables scale, right? Having a standard format such as MCP to be able to leverage diverse platforms. And thirdly, trust and safety is non-negotiable, right? One of the things you want to ensure you do is, you want to eat your cake and have it. You don't want to sacrifice security. You don't want to sacrifice cost. You don't want to sacrifice, your Gen AI hallucinating. And thereby, you want to ensure that at the end of the day, you can actually drive innovation and embrace all these other elements, such as security, quality, among others. Now, Bruno, take us back 2 to 3 years ago. What was your AI reality then versus now? And why is AI so crucial for the pharma industry?
First of all, what happened, it was even further down the line. It was like 5 years ago. Our new CEO decided to have a vision for the company that is having a pharma tech leading company powered by AI at scale. So the ambition was to have AI across all the life cycle of drug discovery. If you know a little bit the pharma world, or if you don't know, basically here it takes 12 to 14 years, I would say, or 10 to 14 years to discover a drug or discover a molecule and then get it into the hands of a patient. So the ambition was to accelerate all that cycle and try to seed digital and AI in each one of the steps that is required to get it done. So research, development, so clinical trials and so on, manufacturing and supply chain, commercial operation. And so we embarked in that journey with, I would say, a lot of legacy. So we did a lot of transformation in terms of technology landscape, migration to the cloud, revamp of all our, I would say, portfolio of assets, digital assets, and basically cleaning up all the landscape and applying data mesh approach when it comes to managing our data and ensuring that the data is well governed at the same time. So greenfield approach, revamping everything, moving from the on-prem, going to the cloud. So that was kind of the technological transformation. At the same time, there was two other transformations also that needed to happen, which is the transforming the ways of working, and we shifted a lot the way we work, going agile at scale, ensuring that we are product-oriented as a technology team in the company, partnering very closely with our end users and our stakeholders internally, or even end users being our patients, in some cases of applications that are in the hands of patients. So a large transformation of the way of working, prioritizing also ruthlessly in terms of the use cases. And the last was also a transformation in terms of people, upskilling, large programs about learnings, about data literacy, AI literacy, and also I would say hiring a lot of individuals that bring back in the company a lot of those skills around AI and data.
Yeah, I'm going to drill down into one of the things you just mentioned around change management, where people have to upskill among other things. One of the fear people have in the industry today is AI is going to displace a lot of people, replace jobs, and you have people being scared about their job being lost as we automate so many things, right? In your experience, has that actually been the reality, or have people tend to reposition themselves and evolve into other roles?
I think it's the latter. So basically, we have people with the overall upskilling and the fact. I mean, today things goes very fast. We can see it from a technology perspective, but also from a use case perspective and practical perspective. I mean, so we had to sustain that data and AI literacy and help people embark on that journey and help them understand what is possible and what could be possible also with those technologies. So there's no replacement. What we're saying is that you hear often that sentence is about human with AI would replace human without AI. So here is trying to augment people with the right solutions, ensuring that they are able to enhance their capabilities depending where you are in the company. That could be on the shop floor, in the manufacturer, or it could be as an employee to be able to perform your day-to-day job faster with the help of agents.
Thanks for that answer. When it comes to experimentation versus MVP, right? What did you wish you knew then that you know now in terms of your approach?
I would say, from my perspective, personally, I would say, but a lot share this challenge, is that as I said, we moved 5 years ago. We had to move a lot of assets, so it was a long legacy that we had. It's a big company that was made also a lot of acquisition, and technologically we had a lot of burden, but it was kind of redesigning the overall data landscape, okay? Because data is the fuel of AI, so having AI-ready data is what was kind of the thing that was the most important. So we built up the governance frameworks, new operating model, and so on and so forth, but the transformation is still something that we have to continue, and the change management associated with it is also a big effort that you can't underestimate. So so that's the biggest part of the work right now. Even if we went through, and we will talk maybe about that just after, about the value realization, which is even if we went through a ruthless, as I was mentioning, ruthless approach in terms of portfolio management and ensuring that we identify the use case that are actually that's going to make the difference in our vision and our I would say aim, that is halving the time it takes to go from a molecule to the patients.
Yeah, I can imagine. Having worked with diverse customers in EMEA, I think we've seen, in terms of maturity, we've seen, steep curve when it comes to other industry, whereas some are still actually, more or less developing their data foundation. Like, folks at Sanofi, you are the bleeding edge of the industry, where you have other customers, for example, who are still, trying to put their house in order. And the analogy that goes like garbage in, garbage out still holds, even if you're working on Gen AI use cases. ever more so, right? Because the insight is as good as what you put in. So it's good to also say that data foundation is really, really critical. And you guys have evolved on that journey, and now you've been able to build interesting use cases. One of the things we did discuss, I think last week, was around putting governance before the tech. I know some folks prefer to go after the shiny object. We want to do powerful use cases, but then without putting governance in place. My question to you, Bruno, is what was the expensive lesson that you've learned that instill you to put governance prior to the tech?
I think it was looking at the past and from the experience from the past. But so here, what we put it in place is a strong governance mechanism, especially because, as I was mentioning, the journey of moving the overall on-prem to go to the cloud and so on, and revamping everything, you had to be very precise, because those are major investments. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars that are invested to be able to do that modernization. And then there is the shiny objects, as you mentioned. So give an example, but for GenAI, that was the hype in 2023. Things like got, I would say, on the front page with ChatGPT. And so we decided at the time to put in place actually a strong governance mechanism to start with. A strong governance mechanism by which the ticket to enter was 100 million BOI impact. So only use cases that were of that scale were actually prioritized to start with, and with strong mechanism and framework to be able to manage the value, or identify and chase the value realization of each one of those use cases. So we started with at the time with, as I said, that small portfolio but with big ticket item. And we build up the tech at the same time, knowing that things are still evolving and things are settling down, and there's and we see that across the last 2 years. It was at the time it was kind of the early days of having services and so on, and now we have way more services and solutions that are actually coming into play. And now we've been able for the last year to build up, I would say, a strong partnership and also a proper, I would say, landscape and platforms and services.
Oh, perfect. We did a recent survey, and one of the things we did find that mitigate people from putting Gen AI model into production. The first one was, wasn't a big surprise, but the first one was quality and hallucination, the reason why people can't proceed to production. The second one was around security, and the third was around cost. Would you say that's do you agree with that? Is that the reason why people tend not to move fast into production? Is that something you see across Sanofi as well?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, quality. We often think about the quality of structured data, but when it comes to knowledge base, managing your knowledge, and especially at the scale of a company like Sanofi, you can imagine the number of tools that we have, the number of, we talk about thousands of tools that are actually available in the company. You get a lot of repositories that are either identified repositories for source of truth, but also a lot of repositories that are SharePoints and wikis or of some sort. And so where you have a lot of information and knowledge that is actually entered and scattered and not necessarily fully well managed. So that was kind of the first part, was kind of for each individual use case is to take quality first as a big topic, changing the processes from the teams, ensuring that they well understand the governance associated with managing information. And then you mentioned security, but it's kind of wider, and when I would talk about security is about in the whole process of portfolio and identifying the use cases, we have also built by anticipation of the AI Act at the time. So we built what we call RAISE. So it's funny because it's called RAISE this year, also the conference. But RAISE means Responsible AI at Sanofi for Everyone. So it's a framework and a governance framework that we put in place way before the AI Act came into place, to be able to have multidisciplinary teams legal, cyber, architecture, data, and so on and so forth, to always look and evaluate at different stage of the maturity of the use case at the entry level, but then at the during the build level, build stages, evaluate the security and the ethics around the tools and the data that is used and the output that is generating. So that's I would say a centerpiece that is done via those governance and board committee that are in place. And the cost obviously lands also, it's something that is very important. But the cost is well managed via that portfolio prioritization and value realization framework.
Good. In terms of value realization, one thing I often emphasize is when people talk about value, it's not a fad, right? We've got a couple of customers that are generating maximum value by leveraging the platform of Snowflake, for example. We have Nissan, we have RAC, we have tons of customers that have been able to measure the impact the platform is bringing, and Sanofi, of course. You have described a fundamental shift in how people interact, right? For example, through the Gen AI. Now we've got the agents. This conversation won't be complete without mentioning agents, of course. Now we've got agents. Can you paint that picture for us? How was Gen AI changed expectation, and how do you tend to prioritize, for example?
As I said at the beginning, the goal is to embed AI at every stage of the development, of the journey. And so for each area, being research, it's going to translate on having assistance for researcher to be able to discover faster and to take decision faster. You get at the clinical level, it's going to be about being able to create dossiers for the health authorities faster. So in that example, it takes 18 to 19 weeks to be able to compile over thousands of pages or hundreds of documents that are coming from the clinical studies, and to be able to compile all of that to submit then these topics to this dossier to the health authority. So here, from 19 weeks, being able to cut it off and going down to 5 weeks. In manufacturing and supply chain, multiple also use cases there where it allows people to help on similar topics as dossier and regulation, being able to compile all information related to quality of batch of products that we're actually releasing, or even helping identifying root cause analysis or anticipating the potential root cause of batches that could fail and so on. So those are a couple of examples that you see happening, and always those use cases, as I say, are driven by the value and the first, I would say, gateways that we put in place. Obviously, when we do those scoping and ideation and so on, we ensure that we keep in mind the build, buy, borrow approach. So is it something that strategically is going to make sense for us to build, or we build it because at this stage the market is not yet fully mature, and so we initiate some building blocks, or at least some core blocks that should be in our control, and then gradually we try to move, and if the market evolves and the maturity of our partners also evolve, we shift and start to apply more of a buy approach to the context.
I know this question I'm about to ask you wasn't the question we're prepped for, but I'm going to ask anyway, if you don't mind. You mentioned a lot of use case already generating high business values, and I know a company of that scale like Sanofi, you need to grasp with the scale and velocity of the data, to have this use case delivered. How have you managed that kind of scalability? Is the platform giving you enough in terms of that aspect as well?
We have a tech ecosystem that we build that leverage the USPs and the advantage of each one of the partners that we selected. So Snowflake is one of those partners. We have also a partnership with AWS and other software solutions. And so that's, I would say, partnering with companies that are innovating and in the field and always pushing the boundaries is actually what helps us also move faster. Obviously, we are not a technology company by by nature. So we're here to chase the miracle of science to improve patients' lives. So we want to ensure that we are able to leverage the best of technologies and challenge those partners too, to be able to go fast in that space and be innovative.
In terms of measuring return of your investments, for example, how are you reporting to business and technical execs? Because at the end of the day, you want to make money as a business as well, and the exec needs to justify, why they're spending that money in this kind of use case. How do you do that?
So how do we do that? I would say it's, if you remember at the beginning, I was talking about the transformation in terms of the ways of working. So it's a tight partnership here between the business and the tech team. So we're acting as one Sanofi. And we try to take the leadership in terms of those aspects together. And that means that the business and the tech team are actually both accountable for the outcome. So the business case are co-created, co-built. The value is actually identified with the business precisely, and also the level of investment from a tech company and from a tech department. We're here to actually provide the guidelines on how best build or buy or borrow, I would say, the solution, and basically we report those back via the mechanism I mentioned earlier, which are around the governance bodies that are in place. Governance bodies for those 100 million ticket items, for example, for Gen AI topics or agents. Those are, the board is composed of also C-suite members, obviously because of the scale of the return on investment that we are expecting.
Yeah. Do you have to oftentimes educate some of these board members when it comes to Gen AI, or do they get it from the onset? Because a lot of people in the exec suite, some gets it right from the onset, others need to get an understanding of how this tool works and how they're going to generate that 100 million investment from that use cases. Do you tend to educate, or have a session with them to walk them through how this value is going to be created at the end of the day?
No, I think they are well aware, and they are also very curious about it. And don't forget that, as I mentioned, the direction was set also by our CEO. That is very data and AI driven. We have internally a solution that is at the level of the leaders of Sanofi, for the top 1,000 leaders of Sanofi, a solution that allows to take AI-driven decision and that are at their fingertip in their app on their mobile. And so basically it's something that is now, I would say, embedded within the culture. And now it's actually the challenge for the whole company. And fortunately, we're still pushing for and keeping a hold on I would say that prioritization, ruthless prioritization, is that now people are actually coming with a lot of ideas, and so sometimes redundant, obviously, but it's that culture of data and AI driven company is actually, I would say, instilled in a lot of our people at Sanofi. So.
Now we're going to shift gear a little bit to the transformation aspect. Each use case you're delivering, for example, at the moment, they tend to deliver value. What pattern do you see across the discovery, the development, and the operation side of your business? Each use case you're delivering value at the moment, it has to go through different phases, right? And in terms of pattern, are you seeing any pattern when it comes to the discovery, the development, and the operation side of that phase?
But the pattern are the ones that you mentioned earlier regarding quality, security, cost, and so on. So the pattern that we see is the level of maturity in terms of data management and data AI readiness of the data.
Yeah.
So that's something that's a given. I mean, the rubbish in, rubbish out always apply. I mean, it has not changed. So that's one item. This one is a big one that we can see across the board. And then there is the challenge of that I talk about, and we all aware, is that the technology landscape is evolving very fast. It has been. I mean, in the last, we used to say every 6 months things change, but now it's actually every month almost things have been changing. And so that's the most challenging part, I would say, because being able to pivot very quickly, to have an agile architecture mindset, and knowing where are the big bets also, where are the big investment that can be made from a partnering perspective, but also I would say partnering with other companies or startups and so on and so forth to be able to progress faster. Those are definitely a challenge.
Yeah, and in terms of, when you're trying to drive this value, you often need to have a good relationship with the IT, and the business and IT collaboration is key. In my experience, part of the challenges has always been the business are heavily bought in. They bought into the use case. They want to drive change. They want to go very fast. And then the IT are like, hey, hold your horses. We're not going very fast. We need to tick all those boxes before we actually go and execute. So there's always this friction between the business and IT in terms of, relationship. Do you ensure, did you run into this kind of situation in your organization where the IT is trying to now, drag or delay the business processes from being executed?
No, I think the ways of working changing and the whole journey that we've been through the last 3 years. Obviously, there are some aspects that slows down a little bit the process because security, cybersecurity. I mean, those raise governance aspect that I mentioned earlier about responsible AI at scale, and so those are things that we need to take into consideration. Other than that, if the partnership is actually a strong partnership and that there's co-creation and a decision that is made jointly, that allows actually to get things move. Obviously, I'm not saying that it's a perfect world and so on. That those things still happen.
Yeah.
But that's where we try to enable to come and be an enabler to I would say reduce some of the burden and of the processes, apply AI engineering to how IT works also to be able to go faster. I mean, agile, agile and using agents also in our own shop. You have a lot of vibe coding is something that is coming into play. So we are also adopting those things into those new modalities into our processes to avoid that friction and reduce that friction and be able to go faster also too.
Yeah. In terms of your checkpoint mechanism when you work on this project, how do you maintain focus, prevent scope creep while, for example, when you're doing experimentation? Right, because folks always want to add different, like you said, you need to prioritize. Folks want to add different. Yeah, this is another prioritization. We need to jump on, and we need to, disregard the other prioritized project. How do you manage and juggle all those?
The product level, having a product mindset and having a team that is multidisciplinary, going from CX. So we have when we build up and assemble a team that would work on an identified use case, we have so the product owner, scrum masters, CX, so customer researcher, customer experience, and you have all the different individuals that are needed also for the build, so architects, data engineer, software engineer, and so on. So, but they work as a lot of tech companies in a product agile fashion, and always ensuring that we deliver value every sprint, and so that's what we adopted in terms of ways of working internally.
I think this conversation is not going to be complete without asking you about agents, right? um, so how are you preparing for the next wave of agentic AI?
We are currently building up upon so I mentioned we were building a GenAI platform that we kickstarted 1 year ago, and now on top of that GenAI platform we are building all the necessary assets and components to get agents at scale also for the company, and looking at the different evolution of the partners and so on that are coming strong with different propositions. And we are assembling those as we speak. We have a couple of agents that are actually currently running in the company. To name a few, within our GenAI, we have a tool internally for our employees that is called concierge. So it's as you know, a concierge in the hotel is the one that you can ask anything, and it's going to kind of bring you and help you out into your journey. So here, that concierge, for example, has multiple agents at the back that helps employees, for example, to book meetings, to create their vacation without having to jump out of the interface, being able to understand better the tools or solutions, create tickets to let them get access to a tool in the company, and so on and so forth. So that's an example of how we are actually building up agentic at this time. So we have a couple of solutions there. Then for other fields that are more strategic, I would say bigger and strategic research and so on. So we have partnerships with in research, for example, with a company that is called Oakin that we've been partnering for quite some time now. So those are kind of more larger scale use cases, and so those are different approach that we apply. So agentic at the scale of employees, agentic at the scale of research and helping fastening the discovery. And so those are coming into play right here, right now. And as the market evolves, we try to follow also the market very, very closely and try to anticipate also some of those trends and patterns.
One last question before I let you go, Bruno. A lot of people are scared that this agent could go rogue if we don't have any observability or explainability in place, right? You want a situation whereby you can evaluate how good this agent is, right? Likewise, the traditional use case we're working on. Do you have guardrails in place to ensure this, those bots you're creating are really safe, fit for purpose, and they don't go rogue?
We have the RAISE framework that I mentioned earlier, but that RAISE framework is also tightly coupled with the operationalization of it, which is responsible AI at scale comes with actually a lot of tools and solutions that we put in place, and standards and guidelines, and having a community of practice in the space of AI in the company to always keep up with the latest implementation of solutions that could be obviously either proprietary or either open source, and ensuring applying the basically a good prompt, all the prompt management that is required, having the guardrails also, leveraging the guardrails also that needs to be in place, evaluating different LLMs and different models, obviously, and then there is the last layer, which is more kind of the ethical aspect of it, and by putting also a lot of emphasis on checking the outputs and having different methodologies in place that are also AI driven to check how things are evolving, and if the model is not drifting and things are not drifting.
Thank you. I mean, what I took from there is you have LLM as a judge as well to help safeguard those bots. Thank you very much, Bruno. It's been a pleasure having you on stage. And thanks for attending.
Thank you, everyone.